to protect the galaxy secretly unleashed a force older than time, just to erase humanity. What if we weren't the villains, but the warning? In a universe built on lies, one young pilot uncovers a truth so massive, it could change the fate of every star. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel and show a thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's dive into this wondrous and chilling tale that begins not with a battle, but with a betrayal. The cold stars hung motionless beyond the reinforced glass of the EOS Prime command deck, their silent glow giving no comfort to Fleet Commander Leona Miles. She stood with her hands behind her back, eyes locked on the final wave of transport ships disappearing into the dark void of hyperspace. Each blinking engine trail marked thousands of lives, families, engineers, scholars, children, the last hope of humanity, fleeing from a betrayal so deep it threatened to unravel everything they had built across the stars. A soft chime in her ear signaled an incoming update. "Evacuation complete," said the steady voice of Kalen Droth, her intelligence officer. "Outer colonies are secure, and the decoy signals are running as planned. It'll buy us some time." Leona didn't respond, not right away. She stared at the quiet void and felt the weight of 3 decades of service bearing down on her shoulders, like the gravity of a dead star. Kalen's voice broke the silence again, quieter this time. "We have confirmation, ma'am. The intercepted file is authentic, the assembly's top brass inner circle, all of it real." Leona turned slowly. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes sharpened. "Play it." Kalen tapped his console. The room dimmed as the hologram bloomed into the air between them, glowing blue. The circular chamber of the Galactic Assembly's inner council appeared. High-backed chairs, alien faces, translated voices. The one that spoke first belonged to Chancellor Ithrex, leader of the Arcadian Coalition, a species known for its crystalline intellect and cold efficiency. "Humanity has fulfilled its usefulness," he said, voice clear and calculated. "Their military strategies have been logged, their technological contributions integrated. Their presence now presents a risk to long-term council stability." Another voice joined in, this one flat, mechanical, belonging to the automated minds of the Solaris Enclave. "Query, termination procedure." No emotion, no hesitation, just a question, like it was routine maintenance. Leona clenched her jaw. The recording continued. A third speaker, the ambassador of the Mirage Alliance, floated lazily in his pod, surrounded by drifting spores. "Let nature handle it. The anomaly clusters near the old breach gates are still unstable. We simply redirect containment." Kalen paused the recording. The room was silent, heavy with the weight of unspoken fury. "They're not killing us," he said quietly. "They're feeding us to something." Leona didn't blink. "The rift entities." Kalen nodded. "The same ones the archives call dimensional parasites. Ancient. Supposedly locked away in the dark sector millennia ago. The Assembly's plan is to leak them, just enough to sweep through our territories. Then claim it was a tragic accident, heroic sacrifice, clean hands." Leona finally moved, walking slowly toward the main console. She tapped a single command. Across human space, dormant protocols flared to life. Red alerts, emergency routes, mobilization orders. "Initiate protocol Solstice," she said. "We sever all council links now." Kalen blinked. "That protocol's never been used. It'll cut us off from every supply lane, every alliance." "That's the idea," she said. "If we're already alone, we fight like it." There was a moment of hesitation, but Kalen obeyed. The command center lit up as orders flew through secure channels reaching ships, stations, and colonies. Humanity was withdrawing, not in retreat, but in rebellion. For the first time in generations, they stood only with themselves. Then, another signal came in, an old code buried deep in the intelligence channels. The sender was anonymous, but the signature was unmistakable. "Shade," Kalen muttered. "They're still alive." The message was short. "They know. You have less time than you think." Leona's heart beat faster. They know about the interception? Kalen nodded grimly. And the evacuations. Council security forces have begun shadow deployments. They'll try to cut us off, make the narrative theirs. Leona turned to the comms officer. Send a burst transmission to every human outpost, civilian or military. No encryption, let them all hear it. You want to expose classified material? The officer asked. No, Leona said, voice calm, but steely. I want the truth out before they can drown it in lies. The broadcast echoed through deep space moments later. Her voice, firm and unwavering, reached every corner of human civilization. This is Fleet Commander Leona Miles. As of now, humanity formally withdraws from the Galactic Assembly. All alliances are void. All treaties are broken. We have been betrayed, not by war but by silence. They plotted our extinction, and they chose not to fight us, but to erase us. To those who would come for our people, remember this. We are not prey. We are the storm. You should have remembered that before. As the signal dispersed into the stars, Kalen looked at her with something like fear and respect. You just declared war on the entire assembly. Leona didn't blink. No, she said. They declared war when they decided we were expendable. I'm just the one who answered. In the void beyond the station, alien ships began to reposition. Lights flickered as their engines burned to life, but EOS Prime did not flinch. It stood tall, a beacon in the growing dark, not of surrender but of warning. Dr. Naira Seelan adjusted her visor as the scanner hummed beside her, casting a pale blue light across the observation deck of the Andara research station. Orbiting, the lonely gas giant of Lyra 9, the station was built to study space anomalies, not defend against them. But today, something unnatural had entered their sector, and it was growing closer by the hour. She tapped the console again, confused by the readings. The usual patterns were gone. In their place were strange pulses in the fabric of space, almost like breathing. Naira, came a voice behind her. Technician Milo Varon stepped into the room, holding a steaming mug of synth coffee that didn't match the anxiety written across his face. You seeing this? The deep-range sensors just pinged 30 contacts and they're not showing up on standard propulsion signatures. They're not ships, Naira said, barely above a whisper. Or at least, not ones we've seen before. The tension was growing heavier by the second. Something was coming through the rift, a part of space once thought sealed by ancient technology. The same rift the Galactic Assembly had claimed was stable. Naira remembered the reports she'd read years ago, buried under classified codes, mentions of entities that existed outside known physics. Myths, they were called. Leftovers of a long-forgotten war. Now the myths were coming back. She pulled up the real-time feed. Out in the black, shapes moved slowly but with intention. They looked like ships at first, but as they grew closer, their outlines blurred and shifted, warping the light around them. Milo squinted. Are they glitching? They're phasing, Naira replied. In and out of our dimensional layer. They're not using engines, they're folding space. The station's internal lights flickered, then steadied. A soft alarm buzzed. Naira glanced at the system's readout. Not a power failure. A dimensional ripple. One of the entities had just passed by the outer ring of the station. Milo leaned in, voice lowered. What do we do? Call the assembly? Naira shook her head slowly. No, we call Earth Command. This isn't a research anomaly. It's an invasion. She activated the station's high-priority transmitter. This is Andara Research, Dr. Naira. Seelan reporting. We have visual and sensor confirmation of rift entity presence in the Lyra 9 system, requesting immediate military oversight. Static answered at first. Then through the fuzzy quantum channel came a familiar voice. Dr. Seelan, this is Fleet Commander Leona Miles, the voice said. We've received similar reports from other fringe systems. These aren't accidents. The assembly released them? Naira froze. Released? You mean, they're trying to erase us, Leona said plainly. Andara is too exposed. Prepare for immediate evacuation. Milo's hand flew to the escape pod controls. I'll start pre-launch sequence, but Naira couldn't stop watching the things outside. One of them floated just beyond the observation glass. It was massive, easily the size of a small city. Its surface was layered with shifting textures that looked like both metal and flesh, but neither at the same time. From its core, tendrils of light spiraled and split, as if reality itself was unraveling around it. "They're watching us," Naira said. "They're not feeding, not yet. They're studying." "Which means they're smart," Milo muttered. "Great, that's just what we need. Smart monsters from outside the universe." Suddenly, the lights in the station went out. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing the hallways in red glow, Warning beeped across the console. "Main systems offline," the station AI droned. "Life support stable. Escape pods unresponsive." Naira stood still, heart pounding. "They're disabling us one system at a time." She turned to Milo. "We can't wait. The prototype engine, the fold drive. We need to use it." Milo hesitated. "That thing's never been tested. It could scatter us across 12 different dimensions." "Or," Naira countered, "we die here in one." They sprinted to the engine room. The fold drive, a shimmering ring of plasma coils and compressed exotic matter, was pulsing with ambient energy. The rift entities, just by existing nearby, were affecting the drive's quantum field. And somehow Naira realized it was stabilizing it. "They're making the drive more stable," she whispered. "Their presence is creating a resonance. We might actually survive this." Milo slid into the secondary control seat. "Then let's go before they decide to eat the station." Naira entered the coordinates, not to another system, but into deep dark space far enough to regroup. The engine hummed, brighter now. The station shook as one of the entities wrapped its tendrils around the outer hull. Metal groaned, engaging in 3, 2, 1. The station vanished in a burst of impossible light. Reality twisted like a spiral of broken mirrors, and Naira felt her mind stretch and blur, her body weightless and wakeful all at once. Then, silence. When she opened her eyes, they were no longer at Lyra 9. They floated in the void, adrift but alive. Systems were slowly coming back online. Milo groaned from his chair, dizzy but breathing. "It worked," he mumbled. Naira checked the console. "We're here, wherever here is." Then a signal blinked. "Message from Earth Command," she said, voice steady despite everything. "New directive. The war has begun." The halls of the Assembly Citadel gleamed like polished ice, yet to Rian Corvin, they felt colder than ever. She moved quietly through the corridors, her diplomatic badge flashing green with each security scan. The air was thick with false calm. Beneath the surface of official statements and closed-door sessions, something terrible was unfolding. And the galaxy wasn't being told the truth. Rian had once believed in the Galactic Assembly. She had stood at the grand podium, shaking hands with leaders from dozens of species, helping to broker peace treaties and scientific alliances. But ever since the withdrawal of human forces and the sudden surge of interdimensional threats, cracks had begun to show. Official reports described the situation as an unexpected containment breach. Rian had her doubts. And now, thanks to a coded data packet slipped into her comm terminal by an anonymous source, she had proof. She stepped into a shadowed chamber far from the main assembly floor, where a lone figure was already waiting. Tomavex, a former assembly technician turned rogue systems analyst, stood hunched over a flickering screen. His eyes were tired but alert. "You came," he said without turning. "I saw the file," Rian replied. "I had to." Toma nodded and tapped a key. A recording began to play, not one meant for public ears. It was a strategic council session, deep inside the Assembly's restricted archives. The voices were clear. They spoke of containment windows, narrative control, and most chilling of all, acceptable loss projections. "They knew," Rian said, her voice flat. "They released them on purpose." Toma turned to her now, his expression grim. They didn't just let the rift entities out. They made sure humanity would be their first target. The plan wasn't just to eliminate a threat, it was to test a weapon, without ever admitting they created it. Outside the chamber, an alarm sounded. Not a loud one, but a coded tone. That meant high-level assembly forces were preparing to lock down communications. The timeline was accelerating. "They're going to isolate us," Toma said. "Not just from the assembly, from each other, every human system, every independent signal. They'll cut it all." Rian's heart beat faster. "Then we need to warn them before it's too late." Toma's fingers flew across the console. "I'm routing a burst signal through unused relay satellites, the ones from the old mapping missions. If we're lucky, they won't notice for a few minutes." Rian nodded. "That might be all we get." The screen lit up with red, green, and yellow indicators. Star systems, colonies, space stations. The human diaspora spread like constellations across the galaxy. The signal would only reach a few, but even a few could be enough to ignite resistance. "We need more than just a warning," Rian said. "We need a message they'll believe. Something that explains everything." Toma opened a final file. "This might help. It's a partial log from a deep classified assembly archive, pre-Alliance era. Talks about the rift entities not as threats but as guards." Rian blinked. "Guards? Guards of what?" Toma looked at her, uncertainty in his eyes. "That part's still encrypted. But think about it. Why build such complex, dimensional seals? Why not destroy the entities outright? Maybe the seals weren't for keeping them in, but keeping something else out." Before Rian could respond, a soft blue light filled the room. It was an incoming message. High priority. Assembly flagged. The screen flickered, and the face of Chancellor Ithrex appeared. "This is a general broadcast to all assembly-aligned systems. Due to recent events, a quarantine is being enforced on all former human territories. Communications are suspended. All transit is restricted. This measure is temporary, for public safety." The transmission ended as quickly as it came. "They've cut us off," Toma said. "That was the last official channel." Rian stared at the blank screen. "Then we go unofficial." Moments later, they activated the rogue signal, routing their message through every working satellite and outpost still within reach. The message was simple. The assembly lied. The rift entities were released as a test. And what's coming next is not an accident. It's a choice. From hidden bases, underground colonies, and dark spaceports, human outposts began to respond. Not all of them, not many, but enough to form a spark. Resistance commanders, rogue ship captains, and scattered scientists began to mobilize, but not all was hopeful. In the lower depths of the Assembly's own records Toma had only just begun to decrypt, something darker stirred. A name, fragmented in data. A signal older than the Council itself. A failed project buried in silence. As Toma's terminal flickered with strange symbols, he turned pale. "Rian," he whispered. "This isn't just about rift entities. There's something else. Something the entities were guarding against." Rian stepped beside him, reading the screen. The words appeared line by line. Containment breached. Protocol mirror fall failed. Unknown intelligence detected. Before she could say a word, the screen went dark. Then came a whisper from deep inside the system. Not through speakers, but through the silence itself. As if space had spoken directly into her mind. "You opened the gate." Rian turned slowly, her voice barely a breath. "We weren't just betrayed. We were used." And somewhere far away, in a place beyond charts and maps, something ancient began to stir. The stars outside the Helian expanse shimmered like a quiet ocean. But for Sarah Quinn, they looked anything but peaceful. She sat in the cockpit of the small recon vessel Starwind, her fingers hovering above the controls. The quiet hum of the ship's systems was the only sound. She wasn't supposed to be here. She was barely out of pilot training. But war didn't wait for qualifications. It called whoever could answer, and Sarah had answered. She adjusted the course to bring the ship closer to a strange signal coming from deep within the expanse, a region long marked as uncharted and unstable. The last message from command was clear. Investigate, but do not engage. Sarah wasn't alone. In the back of the ship sat a forgotten relic from humanity's earlier days in space, an AI unit named Nilo. Once a full sentience interface meant to help with diplomatic missions, Nilo had been decommissioned after a system failure. But someone had turned him back on. His voice, gentle and low, broke the silence. "This signal is old," he said. "Far older than the Council. It matches records from humanity's earliest spacefaring efforts." Sarah frowned. "You mean from before the assembly?" "Yes," Nilo replied. "Before we ever met the others. This signal, it's human." The ship finally came within range of the source. Floating in space, surrounded by debris and glowing dust, was a massive structure. It looked like a gate, but not like the ones used for travel. It was fractured and worn, but still pulsing faintly with power. Symbols etched across its surface shimmered with light as Sarah approached. Nilo's tone shifted. "This is a beacon. A warning. Left by early explorers, maybe even the first ones." Sarah scanned the area. The gate wasn't dead. It was locked. And behind that lock, something was still awake. "Can you access it?" she asked. "I can try," Nilo said. "But this code, it's written in ways I wasn't built to understand. It's layered, like a story being told in loops." As the AI worked, Sarah leaned back, trying to calm her nerves. Her thoughts drifted to the things she'd seen over the last few weeks. Entire colonies going silent, fleets vanishing, the rift entities changing and learning. They weren't just hunting, they were evolving. And worse, they were becoming curious. Each encounter ended the same way, not with a direct attack but with analysis, observation, as though they were waiting for something. A soft chime pulled her back to the present. Nilo spoke. "I've opened the first layer. It's not a weapon, it's a message." The gate pulsed. A holographic projection flared to life in front of the cockpit, an image of a world covered in light, energy flowing like rivers through the skies. And then, it darkened. Creatures not unlike the rift entities appeared, but smaller, younger. They weren't destroying. They were building, protecting. And then came the real horror. A deeper shadow behind them, something vast and hidden, a force not yet seen. "They weren't the enemy," Nilo said softly. "They were guards. The rift entities were created to keep this larger force sealed. And the assembly, they broke the lock." Sarah felt her breath catch. "They used us. They sacrificed us to hide their mistake." Just then, a pulse hit the ship. Not a weapon. A signal. The rift entities had found them. Outside, space shimmered and bent. One of the creatures materialized, its form bending through multiple dimensions at once. But it didn't attack. It hovered, watching. "They know," Nilo said. "They recognize this place. This gate. They're trying to finish what they started." The gate responded to the creature's presence. A new pulse, brighter, deeper. The structure opened slightly, revealing a map of coordinates. Dozens of planets. One of them glowed, brighter than the rest. "It's showing us where to go," Sarah said. "Not just us," Nilo replied. "Everyone. A safe place. A place untouched." The rift entity outside moved closer. It didn't reach out with weapons or tendrils. Instead, it folded space around itself and vanished, leaving only a path. Sarah took the coordinates and engaged the drive. The ship leapt through hyperspace, and in the quiet hum of travel she realized something. The rift entities weren't the true threat. They were the warning. When they arrived, the new world unfolded beneath them like a dream. Green valleys, crystal waters, and skies untouched by war. It felt ancient and untouched, like the beginning of something new. As the ship settled into orbit, messages began arriving from other vessels. Others had followed. Some military, some civilian. Survivors, refugees, the last spark of humanity. Sarah looked at Nilo. So what now? The AI took a moment before replying. Now we begin again, with the truth. With the code rewritten, not for war, but for understanding. She nodded, staring at the peaceful world below. And somewhere, in the galaxy's deepest shadows, the greater force stirred, only to find that this time humanity was no longer a tool. It was ready,